As the president, that is Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua have officially taken the oath of office and all set to steer the country to the next direction for the next 5 years, alongside the government that is also all set at the level of parliament and across to the Senate, the judiciary all set, and with a raft of promises and guarantees that they are giving to the people of Kenya as to what their reign is going to bring on board. And we'll be looking at the events of yesterday, that is during the swearing-in ceremony that took center stage at Kasarani National Stadium, and therefore we'll be looking at all this and most importantly just trying to unpack these promises that the president then presents to the people of Kenya upon that change of guard from his boss, that is the outgoing president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And all bare knuckles yesterday, that is from what it is that they were trying to address, and reminding the people of Kenya that indeed freedom, if not change, then has come for them. And so we'll be looking at this morning and so much more in terms of what it is that we expect as a people, and whether indeed there's that beam of hope as these leaders then would promise. What do you expect over Ruto's government? One of the key things that we'll be looking at as I look forward to hear from you. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE. That is across all our social media platforms. I get to sample what you will be telling us as we continue with the broadcast. It is good having you on this very day of September, Wednesday, the 14th, and we look forward to take you through up to around 9:30 a.m. Also later on, we'll be hitting the kitchen and we teach you how to do the best of nyama choma, how you marinate it from that process of the word go and all the way to that point where you make your barbecue outstanding. And therefore, make sure that you keep it right here. And it is going to be a session that you will definitely like, as we will be crossing over to the other side of town in Kasarani as well. That is at the New Sports View Hotel. So make sure that you keep it right here. Let's start the broadcast right away. First of all, by taking a look at the papers, and then briefly we'll be looking at some of the stories that have been prepared by my team. And therefore, we start off by looking at the dailies. The dailies speak of so much so of what was yesterday's events, and that's what we'll be taking a look at, as much as there's also a couple of other things that have been captured on the papers this morning, and then we'll be taking a look at the same and to introduce the guests later. That is when they get to join us. We'll be having Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, as well as Honorable Eric. And also later on, again, on the very same segment, we'll be having the speaker, or the former speaker of the County Assembly of Nyandarua, that is none other than Wakili Ndegwa Wahome. Indeed, a show like never before, as we also get to see what the plan for the people in this coming government. The Standard newspaper speaks of President's thunder, the ink that barely dried on his oath when Kenya's fifth president, that is William Ruto, made a raft of pronouncements that is upsetting the exiting administration. Well, an administration that he sat in as much. And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua narrated their frustrations before the international guests, and also promising new freedoms for all. But beyond the rhetoric, the hard work then begins. That's why we say it's all systems go, and we'll be looking at this moment and get to understand just what way forward for the people of Kenya. A raft of matters that President William Ruto touched on, what he seeks to see his government, achieve, and especially those ones that he will be looking at for the very first time. That is the first 100 days. And he speaks of appointing and swearing in 6 judges that were rejected by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Equally, revert the clearing of all goods and other operations to Mombasa Port, as well as establish education reform task force to collect views on the competency-based curriculum implementation, grant police service autonomy by transferring budget, that is, of course, to the Inspector General, provide 1.4 million bags of fertilizer, at a reduced cost of 3,500 per 50 kg bag, and equally establish a hustler fund and Ministry of Cooperatives, that is for the small enterprises. Equally, he seeks to work on a new credit score rating to eliminate CRB blacklisting of creditors. It also is CBKs, and that is stringent checks in bank transactions that is above 1 million, as well expedite the payment of about 600 billion pending bills, that is with the government, and most importantly accelerate transfer of outstanding functions and resources to counties. This is about the inauguration speech and that moment. Indeed, a special edition is captured by the papers across page 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, and 23 of the Standard newspaper speaks of that, and equally the back page is all about that historic moment for the people of Kenya. The Daily Nation as well speaks of this historic moment, and President Ruto takes over as Uhuru exits. His successor pledges a new order, and therefore William Ruto takes over from President Uhuru Kenyatta as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya in an indeed colorful ceremony at Moi International Sports Center here in Kasarani, that is in Nairobi, Kasarani, attended by more than about 20 African heads of state, and with the symbolic transfer of the instruments of power. Then the president takes leadership of a nation in the throes of an economic meltdown characterized by high food and commodity prices. A huge public debt equally is one of the problems that faces the country, and an ever-widening tax deficit hole. We'll definitely seek to see whether the president will manage to handle that. The campaigns are over, and this is where then the rubber gets to meet the road. A story captured on page 2 and all the way to page 13, raft of measures on the judiciary, on subsidies, on education, and also on the question of agriculture. And therefore, we seek to see what this government then would do. And of course, definitely we will be getting to keep you up to tabs as to the same. And so let's take a look at as well what has been captured this morning. Would we get the People Daily? All right, well, fortunately, we're told that we do not have the People Daily. But then again, it will be this and what it is that we'll be looking at in terms of these promises in his long speech. And we get to understand whether then the legislators also are confident that this then can be addressed. Allow us to take a quick short break, and then we'll come back with what it is that my team has prepared in terms of news.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue.
Your love is
under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning it.
And welcome back. William Ruto's swearing in as the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya was punctuated by pomp and color as Kenyans from all walks of life thronged the Kasarani Stadium to witness the change of guard. Moige William paints a picture of the colorful event that led to William Ruto taking up the reins of leadership of the country.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta handed over the reins of power to his successor William Ruto on Tuesday at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, in an event that was with pomp and color. Uhuru handed over the sword and constitution to Ruto as a symbol of the completion of the transition process according to the assumption of the Office of the President Act. As of 5 a.m., the 60,000-seat capacity Kasarani Sports Center was full to its brim, with President Ruto supporters donning in the UDA party colors of yellow and green filling up the venue. With thousands of Kenyans locked out of the stadium, a number of them made dangerous efforts to make it into the stadium by climbing up the wall, as dozens of them fell down, leading to injuries, with emergency response teams moving in quickly to offer first aid. The situation was restored with more police officers manning the perimeter wall as police water cannon track repulsed the onlookers. Inside the stadium, excited Kenyans danced along to the live band music being played as they sang along to some of the lyrics. By 9 a.m., dignitaries and head of states started streaming in, and the charged crowd could be heard cheering as they welcome the various leaders from outside the country who joined the nation in the change of guard ceremony. The moment of the day fast approaching, incoming Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was first to make it to Kasarani, followed by the man of the moment from the Deputy President's residence in Karen. Minutes later, former head of state Uhuru from State House followed in the well-decorated presidential motorcade. The moment of the day arrived, swearing of the new head of state, guided by the order of the swearing in of the president and his deputy, conducted by the judiciary.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
Uhuru Kenyatta handing over instruments of power to William Ruto, and one will not fail to see the AD-CAM switch position. With the business of the day done, former president was first to leave the venue as William Ruto went round waving to the crowd, this time in the military vehicle of the Commander-in-Chief. President Ruto, together with the First Lady, left the venue escorted by the full presidential escort team. From all walks of life, Kenyans from across the country streamed in here at the Moi International Sports Center, from the young to the old, to witness the swearing in of President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. Moige William, TV 47, from Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi.
And President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua's motorcades were decorated with luxurious vehicles and strict security before the two were sworn in as national leaders. Ruto arrived at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, 5 minutes before 12 o'clock, as Micah Gongo details.
After the Supreme Court okayed the election of William Ruto as president, the clock started ticking towards today as the president and his deputy got ready to ascend to power. And when the day came, the official deputy president residence in Karen was a beehive of activities as the incoming president and his family prepared to go for his inauguration. But first, a cup of tea. A few meters away at the deputy president's residence, also in Karen, Rigathi Gachagua organized a prayer service before heading to Kasarani. The service was meant to put the day's activities in the hands of God before proceeding to Kasarani.
And I want to tell the people of Kenya to take care of family. But at the end of it, those are your people. When things were very difficult for me, my very good friends ran away from me. My business partners betrayed me. Others disowned me. Others switched their phones on me. Others blocked me. Others disappeared when they heard I'm around. but my family never deserted me a single day.
Gachagua and his family arrived at Kasarani Stadium at 11:40 a.m. A few minutes after Gachagua arrived, President William Ruto made his way to Kasarani Stadium for his swearing-in ceremony, attended by many Kenyans, local and global leaders. His motorcade drove in ecstatic fashion as it meandered through the light traffic from his official residence in Karen to the Kasarani Stadium, making his final trip as deputy president accompanied by his family. With lots of hope that the cost of living will be lowered when Ruto is inaugurated, Kenyans waited for him on the road, wishing him all the best on his inauguration day. Ruto arrived at Kasarani Stadium at 11:55 a.m., 10 minutes before the guest of honor, President Uhuru Kenyatta, arrived. And after his ascension to power, the new president departed to his new residence in a presidential motorcade complete with outriders, as his predecessor left to venue without the pomp that comes with being president.
William Ruto's arrival to Kasarani Stadium was overwhelmingly welcomed by more than 60,000 Kenyans that they anticipated to get a new king that will rule them in the next 5 years. Mike, GOtv 47 at Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi.
And now, as the country still reels from the ascension to power by President William Ruto, a story of hope reverberates across the country as many talk about the chicken seller who became president. Chichi Josephine went where the dream began, and here is her report.
Kamagot village in Sugoi, Uasin Gishu County. The home village of the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. A place where Ruto was born on 21st December, 56 years ago, to Daniel Cheruiyot and Sarah Cheruiyot. We embarked on a journey to this remote area. Here we are ushered into the serenity of a forest-like village where locals were busy waiting for President Ruto's inauguration.
Alilelewa hapa kwa MB ndio sasa ameenda mpaka amekuwa sa president elect. So sikia leo tunaongoja tu apishwe ashike usukani ili tuweze kuendeleza uchumi wa Kenya pamoja.
This old-looking structure is not only special but also significant. It is in this structure that the 5th President William Samoei Ruto began his early childhood education before joining Kamagot Primary School. Come along as I take you round. Locals here narrate of the story behind this Kamagot Nursery School that has for many years remained standing as the true north of the humble life of President Ruto.
Tulitenga hapa ili iwe kumbukumbu kuonesha pali ambapo alisomea akiwa mdogo na pia pali ambapo alitoka akiwa mdogo hadi sasa amekuwa president. Kamagot Primary is another proud school that the 5th President joined after his early childhood education.
This Kamagot Primary School is the school that has produced His Excellency the President William Samoei Arap Ruto. We as Kamagot fraternity, that is the pupils, the parents, the teachers, we are indeed very grateful about this great feat and achievement that has occurred in our school.
About 2 kilometers from the nursery school, we find Chebet Keter, President William Ruto's nursery teacher, who is now aged, and she proudly narrates the kind of a pupil Ruto was back in the days.
Nilifunza Ruto na wenzake kutoka mwezi wa 71 na nikaona tu tabia yao, hao walikuwa watoto wazuri. Alikuwa si wakaiti. Kwanza Ruto alikuwa chapchap kama anafunza vitu yote, ndio nikaona huyu mtoto ako na tabia mzuri.
We managed to get to Mama Ruto's compound where Ruto spent his childhood life. This small house, popularly known as Singera, we are told is the first house that Ruto built after his high school education.
Kwa hakika ni furaha isiyo na kifani. Leo Ruto William Samoei ni kiongozi ambaye tunatarajia haweze kuiweza kutimiza yale ambaye aliwaahidi wa Kenya.
Nilikuwa matamu yako, pato unakumbuka mimi. Sasa matamu yako ameeseka sasa. Siwezi hata kutembea. Ningetaka we usaidia mimi kwa shida yoyote ambaye niko naye.
I want to thank God because a village boy has become the president of Kenya.
And when the history of this great republic will be written, some pages will bear the name of this unpopular village of Sugoi that produced the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. Reporting for TV 47 from Sugoi village in Uasin Gishu County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
All right, the inauguration of William Ruto as the fifth president was punctuated by elaborate military drills as the defense forces welcomed their new commander-in-chief. Stanley Nyarigita breaks down the military tradition and the once in 10 years tradition.
Kwa kipindi cha kupeana zana za mamlaka.
The inauguration of the fifth president of Kenya also came with the installation of President William Ruto as the fifth commander-in-chief of the defense forces of the Republic of Kenya.
Standing for this session.
Immediately, the legal part of the ceremony, which includes the oath-taking and signing of inauguration certificates, ended. It was time to take over the reins as the commander-in-chief of the defense forces. And in swift precision, outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, escorted by Chief of Defense Forces General Robert Kibochi, was called upon to hand over the instruments of power to the incoming president amid cheers from the thousands who thronged the venue to witness the once in 10 years tradition. As custom, the 2010 Constitution of Kenya was handed over to the incoming president, signifying that the country will be ruled in accordance with the law. Concurrently, the aide-de-camp, who has served President Kenyatta since 2018, bid his old boss goodbye with a salute as he crossed over to stand behind the new president. An ADC's role, which is performed by a military officer, is mostly ceremonial to give the presidency dignity and honor. This was followed by the handover of the gold-coated stainless steel sword from the outgoing president.
Because, you know, we have an exiting president, right? So he will be given the sword. This is the symbol of power. And that's what he will hold on and say that this is the sword you've given me. It's in the Constitution. And the sword is therefore, it's a military function. The sword is to protect against the enemy. That's the whole essence of the sword, and is holding the sword that I'll protect my state against the enemy.
A series of military traditions followed after the man of the moment was escorted from the inauguration arena. As the national anthem filled the stadium, President Kenyatta's blue presidential standard, the mark of a president's authority and presence, was being lowered. This concurrently saw President Ruto's yellow standard, which bears the wheelbarrow symbol for the UDA party, hoisted. At the same time, Uhuru's presidential portrait was replaced with the incoming presidency's. The public was later treated to a 21-gun salute for the man of the day. Uhuru's blue flag was folded carefully and packed in a special box and presented to him by General Kibochi as a show of gratitude to his service as the President and Commander-in-Chief for the past 10 years. The synchronization of the military traditions were concluded by a precise drum and trumpet fanfare as the guard of honor marched off while saluting the new boss. After the exit of Uhuru, the country's new CEO had a chance to make his first ever lap as president, accompanied by KDF Chief General Robert Kibochi in the ceremonial car with his yellow standard fixed on the front side.
His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, mounting...
Stanley Nyaringita, TV 47, Nairobi.
And the First Lady, Rachel Ruto, and the Second Lady, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, are two women who take religion seriously, with prayer being the center of the growth of their families. A note that was not missed by both the first-in-command, President William Ruto, and his deputy, that is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Let's take a look at these two good and God-fearing women, as Muthoni Maina details.
They say behind every successful man is a woman. But in the incoming administration, what is behind the president and his number two are not just ordinary women, but prayer warriors. One being a pastor who have set themselves apart as the perfect example that prayers work. This was clearly depicted during Ruto's inauguration, as he and his deputy in a detailed manner thanked their wives Rachel Ruto and Dorcas Rigathi for standing by them during the tough moments leading to the August polls and for taking their tribulations at the time to the Lord in prayer.
I want to thank my wife and family for always praying for me and praying for my team.
That even when state agencies came for me with the brutal efficiency, you never abandoned me. My family, I will ever cherish you for standing with us. And I must tell the people of Kenya, please take care of your families. Those are the only people you can rely on.
Standing in Kasarani in their almost matching outfits, First Lady Rachel Ruto and Second Lady Dorcas Rigathi's sisterhood in Christ has been the talk of town, as their friendship moments seem to be an instant bond for spouses who will be expected to spend a lot of time with their respective husbands in their political life.
I want to thank my sister, Dr. Dorcas Rigathi, for making this meeting possible. Thank you so much, my sister. May the Lord bless you for the good work that you are doing, for championing the work of God in our nation.
But where does the story begin? Mama Rachel, aged 54, is a trained teacher, a businesswoman, and a women's economic empowerment activist. Born on 20th November 1968, Rachel is a graduate of Kenyatta University, where she graduated with a Bachelor's of Education degree and a Master of Arts in 2011 from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa.
Excellency, the President and the First Lady.
With Ruto's ascent to power riding on the hustler's wave, his love story with Rachel started on an unprivileged footing as their paths crossed in the early 90s when they were both part of an evangelistic team and would go for missions together.
I ask you to kneel down right there where you are.
On the other hand, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi is known as a very religious individual, as a story which raises from the deep trenches of being a house help in Kiandoto Thika to being the second lady besides Rigathi's missing rib is rather intriguing.
Shall not feel superior to the people.
Dorcas received an honorary doctorate in 2021 from Breakthrough International Bible University in recognition of her commitment in serving widows under the Dorcas Rigathi Mercy Ministries.
The Lord is very good, and I want you to just give him a round of applause because he's a good friend.
Dorcas met Rigathi in the 1980s at a point in life when she almost gave up, till when she got a chance to visit the late former President Daniel Moi's Cabernet Gardens home. It is said that she created a scene while rushing for the podium before Gachagua, who was then an administrator, scooped to action and barred her. Dorcas was then invited to State House, where she met Gachagua again, and later on a bond was created between the two, which then culminated into marriage. The husbands have taken office together, and it will be interesting to see how their wives forge ahead as well, working side by side for the good of all Kenyans. Muthoni Maina, TV47.
Tumpongeze kwa makofi! Tumpongeze!
As celebrations took center stage at the Kasarani grounds in Nairobi during President William Ruto's inauguration, things were a bit different in his Sugoi hometown as the village remained deserted after a section of villagers left for Nairobi Monday to witness the ceremony. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the villagers followed the event via television sets and telephones.
I want to thank God because a village boy has become the president of Kenya.
It is here in Sugoi where President William Ruto was born on the 21st of December 1966. This village now finds itself in the books of history after producing the country's 5th president.
Ni furaha iliyoje kwa maana tumepata uongozi hapa nyumbani ambapo sisi wote kama wakazi hapa tunafurahi. Alilelewa hapa kwa MP ndio sasa ameenda mpaka amekuwa sasa president.
Tunasikia vizuri sana kwa maana ni mtu wetu. Tulikuwa na yeye anachua mimi, anachua jina anaitwa Chipojok. Hata tukukutana na yeye anachua mimi.
It is expected that villagers would flood the streets of this village carrying the special SIGNET plant to celebrate Ruto's victory. But that was not the case, as this village has since remained deserted. This is because a section of villagers embarked on a 346-kilometer journey to Nairobi's Kasarani Stadium to witness Ruto's swearing-in ceremony.
Tumebaki nyumbani kuweza kuchunga area. Tunasema asante sana kwa sababu ya hii siku. Tunaona ya kwamba ni siku kuu ambaye hata sisi hatuko tunatarajia kupata rais.
The state of seclusion experienced by a number of villagers left behind did not deter them from seeking other means of following the ceremony. As we toured the village, we came across this group of men following the swearing-in ceremony using their phone. A few meters from here, we arrive at Kamagut Primary School. Here, we find a group of pupils keenly following the event on a television set mounted on a chair.
Hapa Kamagut tumeamua kufuatilia kwa laptop kwa sababu tumeona laptop inaweza tuonyesha vizuri, tumeamua tujisanye mahali ili tuweze kuona laptop yetu.
Villagers who lack the luxury of a TV or a smartphone gathered in this small shop to watch their fellow village mate taking the oath of office.
Mimi ndo mwenye runinga na nimewekea hawa wanakijiji ili wafuatilie moja kwa moja kuapishwa kwa His Excellency the Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
Tumekuja hapa kuona rais wetu akiapishwa, tunafurahia, tukua wengi hivi tunafurahia. Na tunasema ni asanti.
A section of Sugoi residents are now calling on the president to revive the country's economy currently under duress. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
From fixing the waiting stage of the economy that has accelerated unemployment among the youth to arresting runway corruption to dealing with his government's insatiable appetite for debt, former President Uhuru Kenyatta leaves the country's top set with more misses than hits. Flora Limuki now breaks down some of the promises that were never fulfilled.
As curtains come down on Uhuru Kenyatta's fourth administration, so is the hope that a host of promises personally made by the outgoing president would see the light of the day.
Show me an administration since independence that has taken action on corruption like I have done.
Corruption was one of the biggest issues that rocked Uhuru Kenyatta's boat for 10 years. And despite the promise to curb the menace, Kenyatta lives with unanswered questions on the corruption front.
Following the allegations of impropriety at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, better known as KEMSA, the relevant investigative agencies of our country are currently fully seized with the matter.
On the 26th of August 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the president gave investigators 21 days to complete the KEMSA scandal, with all persons found to be culpable from the investigations brought to book, notwithstanding their social status or political affiliations.
The relevant agencies should expedite their ongoing investigations and conclude the same within 21 days.
Close to 2 years on, Kenyans are yet to know who misappropriated the over 7 billion shillings meant for the sick. On the 4th of October 2021, Kenyans woke up to the news that President Kenyatta and his family secretly owned a network of offshore companies for decades. According to a huge leak of the Pandora Papers, the president and 6 members of his family linked to the 13 offshore companies. The president, who was then on a visit to the United States of America, promised a comprehensive response once he jets back home. That promise remains just a promise.
This is just a political circus.
On the 29th of December 2018, President Kenyatta was put to task to explain the nature of the deal between the government of Kenya and the Chinese government over the billions given for the construction of the SGR. In a joint question and answer session with journalists in Mombasa, the president then promised to make public the contract amid fears that the port of Mombasa was listed as collateral in the contract and the country risked losing the port. Among other notable promises the president made was lifestyle audits by all public officers, a promise he made when he began his second term in office. These are just but a few of the long list of unkept promises by the outgoing president, including numerous promises made in the Jubilee Manifesto. And as the country ushers in a new government, many remain with hope that the new administration will come with a new resolve to keep its promises. Flora Limuki, TV47, Nairobi.
And different heads of state and dignitaries trickled into the country to celebrate the inauguration of the newest member, that is President William Ruto, at Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi. The heads of state have lauded Kenyans for maintaining peace during the entire electioneering process and embracing the president's win. Chepto Boit with more details.
Mheshimiwa Rais Daktari William Samoei Ruto.
Various heads of state and several dignitaries joined thousands of Kenyans who thronged the Kasarani Stadium for the inauguration of the 5th President William Ruto. While congratulating the president in the national event, boasting of their long-standing relation, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has challenged the first-in-command to prioritize the integration of the East African market to realize development across the community.
I know His Excellency Ruto. I've met him a number of times in Uganda, and I know he likes ideas and frank talking. I thought that in order for Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania and Congo and Burundi and Rwanda and South Sudan and Somalia, which is coming now, in order for us to catch up with the United States, we need also to look at the issue of the regional market. Because when you produce, who buys? The more people that buy from you, the better for the business and the better for job creation.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan largely lauded Kenyans for maintaining peace during the entire electioneering period while pledging to work with the incoming administration.
Ndugu zangu wa Kenya, tunawapongeza nyinyi kwa kuonesha ukomavu wa demokrasia na kumaliza uchaguzi salama, na leo tuko hapa pamoja kama Wakenya na wa East Africa tunashangilia uapisho wa rais wetu mpya. Nataka niwaambie ndugu zetu wa Kenya, kama kuna zawadi mlioitoa kwa Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki mwaka huu, ni zawadi ya amani mlioiweka katika uchaguzi.
Burundi President Evariste Ndayishimiye, who also doubles up as the chair of the East African Community, on his part heaped praises on Kenya, terming it as a country of peace, while congratulating the fifth President of Kenya, William Ruto. President Ndayishimiye asked Kenya and Burundi to maintain the already existing relationship that goes beyond trade.
Wa Kenya na Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki kwa ujumla wanatazamia kwa hamu uongozi wako ndugu yangu Ruto, ambao utachukua sio tu kuipeleka nchi yako mbele kwa kimaendeleo, bali pia kuimarisha ushirikiano wa kikanda.
At least 20 countries were represented in today's event, which saw their leaders being received by Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Rachel Omamo, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, among others who lined up to receive the dignitaries. Chepto Boyd, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua took a swipe on the immediate exiting president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, on what he terms as intimidations on their journey to seek Kenya's top seat. From taking over a broke country to claims of intimidation, the Deputy President seemingly called out the outgoing president, as Elizabeth Mutuku tells us.
After taking the oath of office, President William Samoei Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua had a chance to address Kenyans, with the number 2 using the podium to bask their glory, which they attributed to God through prayers by Kenyans and their families.
And today, I want to thank God because a village boy has become the president of Kenya.
In a thinly veiled attack at the outgoing president, the deputy president, despite the presence of visiting dignitaries, once again opened up on the tribulations they went through while seeking the highest office in the land.
Tell the people of Kenya that finally you are free. Kenya is now a democratic country. You don't have to look back when you do something. All Kenyans are free to associate with whoever they want. It became a crime in this country to be afraid of William Ruto. It is only that it was not put in the penal code. From today, I want to tell the people of Kenya that you are finally free. I want to tell public servants, I want to tell all the people of Kenya, from now, you don't have to talk with each other through the WhatsApp for fear of being recorded and persecuted by state agencies.
Without mincing words, Gachagua says the Kenya Kwanza government under President William Samoei Ruto has inherited a dilapidated economy, promising to take the country back to economic heights when the now late former President Mwai Kibaki was exiting power. This coming just a day after the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta laid out what he says are achievements, key among them economic growth.
President and his team have a difficult task ahead. The truth of the matter is that we have inherited a dilapidated economy that is facing almost an economic shutdown. We have a 10 trillion public debt. 6 million Kenyans have no employment. 14 million Kenyans are in CRB. We have a demoralized public service. It is your prayers that will help our president to put up a team and start work from day one to liberate this country economically and put it back to where President Mwai Kibaki left us 10 years ago.
Further, Gachagua in his speech to the country says more so the state departments were under state capture in the past regime, but they will see into their freedom under the Kenya Kwanza government.
Again, poor people will never again be evicted in brutal evictions by state agencies.
And I say, freedom is here. Let every Kenyan be prepared to work hard. Let us give our new president a chance. And I beg you to be patient with him. We have come to the treasury and the coffers are empty. We have to start from scratch. We ask for people of Kenya to be patient and give us a chance to try to get things working.
For the first time in Kenyan history, a man has made it to the House on the Hill on his first trial, his deputy being just a one-time MP. Now, the challenge ahead of them being to deliver on the lofty promises they made to Kenyans. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Kasarani Stadium, Nairobi.
All right, President William Ruto has moved in to undo policy government changes made by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta, and Ruto, in his maiden speech after he took over the reins of power, began his official duties in earnest by issuing an executive order appointing 6 judges rejected by Kenyatta. And as Apollo Kamau reports, Ruto's populist directives on his first day as president were also extended to the National Police Service and Mombasa residents.
In his first executive order after taking over power, the country's 5th president moved in to fix the bad blood between the judiciary and the executive by appointing 6 judges rejected by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto, in a series of populist directives in his maiden speech, pledging to preside over the swearing-in ceremony on Wednesday.
To further demonstrate my commitment to the independence of the judiciary, this afternoon I will appoint the 6 judges already nominated for appointment to the Court of Appeal, which was done 3 years ago by the Judicial Service Commission. And tomorrow, I shall preside over their swearing in so that they can get on with the business of serving the people of Kenya.
And in making good his promise, the president on Tuesday evening signed what would be his executive order number 1, appointing 4 Court of Appeal judges and another 2 Environment and Land Court judges. The 6 judges are Weldon Korir, Agri Muchalule, George Odunga, and Professor Joel Ngoge. Others are Chief Magistrate Evans Makori and High Court Deputy Registrar Judith Omange. The move coming in the backdrop of the Supreme Court verdict upholding Ruto's victory. This also coming as part of Kenya Kwanza campaign pledge that also extended to increased budgetary allocation of 3 billion shillings annually.
These resources will support the bottom-up scaling of justice by increasing the number of small claims courts from the current 25 to 100.
The National Police Service, which was on Kenya Kwanza crosshairs for being used to intimidate Ruto and his allies, will now control its own budget, previously domiciled at the office of the president.
Financial independence of the police will give impetus to the fight against corruption and end the political weaponization of the criminal justice system, an undertaking I made to the people of Kenya.
In what will be a populist directive politically in the Coast region, President Ruto has further reversed Kenyatta's directive on the clearance of goods, which will now be done from the Mombasa port instead of Naivasha. The move, part of Ruto's campaign pledge, comes ahead of his coastal tour to the coast this week.
This is the moment they were all waiting for. He came here as president-elect, and he has left here as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the president for the next 5 years. He has a lot of intrigue, and he tried his best to build on what he promised during the campaigns, that indeed he remembers and he is going to implement it moving forward. Apol Kamau, TV47 from Kasarani Stadium.
Thanks, Apollo. Now, lowering the cost of fertilizer to 3,500 shillings for a 50-kilogram bag, up from the current 6,500, is among promises made by President William Ruto. In his maiden speech as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, Ruto promised to create more job opportunities, create a favorable business and enterprise environment, as well as implement the Hustler Fund, as Andrin Kilemi reports.
Tumpongeze kwa makofi anapopokezwa katiba ya Jamhuri ya Kenya.
In his first speech as president, the new president made promises that largely mirror his 100 days in office pledge made during his campaigns. Local farmers are among Kenyans expected to benefit first from the William Ruto-led government. In his maiden address, Ruto promised to make available 1.4 million bags of fertilizer to farmers and reduce the price of fertilizer from 6,500 shillings per 50 kilos to 3,500 shillings starting next week.
Our priority intervention, therefore, is to make fertilizer, good quality seed, and other agricultural inputs affordable and available. We have already made arrangements to make 1.4 million bags of fertilizer available at Kenya shillings 3,500 for a 50-kilogram bag, down from the current 6,500.
More job opportunities, and especially for the more than 600,000 young people who join the labor market every year, is also one of the issues that the Ruto government will focus on. Ruto saying his main agenda is to create a good business environment, decriminalize businesses, and support people in the informal sector to organize themselves into stable, viable, and credit-worthy business entities.
Every year, 800,000 young people join the workforce, and over 600,000 of them do not find opportunities for productive work. Moreover, our young people in cities and towns face very hostile environments, many times treated as a nuisance and their hustles criminalized. Those who seek to set up formal businesses are faced with a bureaucratic monster that is multiple licenses.
Other promises that President William Ruto made on his first day in office include construction of 20 more markets within Nairobi City, return of port operations to Mombasa, which had been moved to Naivasha by the previous government, as well as implementation of the Hustler Fund, dedicated to capitalization of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises through chamas and SACCOs.
We shall take measures to drive down the cost of credit. Our starting point is to shift the Credit Reference Bureau framework from its current practice of arbitrary, punitive, all-or-nothing blacklisting of borrowers, which denies borrowers credit.
It is now a wait and see for Kenyans as they look forward to seeing whether promises made by the Commander-in-Chief and the 5th President of Kenya, William Ruto, are fulfilled. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrin Kilemi, for that very story. And remember, it's all about the coming in of the new government and what then they have in store for us. And therefore, that's what we'll be looking at this morning as we try and understand just how set the government is to swing the nation forward. We'll be having Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Honorable Eric Muchangi, also Member of Parliament of Runyenjes, and also looking forward to get a hold of Wakili Wahome Ndegwa, who was the former chair of the aspects of devolution, that is the county assemblies, the members of county assemblies. And therefore, we'll get to that conversation in a bit, but keep interacting with us and keep talking to us. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda Alela TV47KE across all our social media platforms. As we continue with the broadcast, I'll definitely get to sample some of your comments. Let's take that quick break and we're back in a few.
Disability is not only limited
to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back to the broadcast. And you know, the conversation will always be on, especially when you have leaders on board, because most of the times you're tempted to ask them, what do we expect? And therefore, from last week, where we had them sworn in as, you know, the members of parliament of their respective constituencies, then they hold the hand of the current government of the executive that was sworn in yesterday. And for us to get systems going in terms of, you know, delivering to the people of Kenya. What do you expect of the next 5 years? And first of all, to acknowledge your presence, Mheshimiwa, it's your first time here. Honorable Gakuya will tell you he's a household member and therefore part and parcel of us. It's good to have you for the very first time. As you greet your people, as you are welcomed at this very space, what are your expectations for the next 5 years?
Thank you very much, Linda. My name is Muchangi Eric. I am the Member of Parliament for Runyenjes constituency, and I want to thank the people of Runyenjes for re-electing me for a second term. I have served them for 5 years, and they saw it necessary to give me another term so that I continue serving them, and I don't take that for granted. And Linda, I am very hopeful and hoping that the new president and the new government that we have formed is going to deliver on the promises that it has made or we have made together. And I want to confirm to Kenyans, because I was on the campaign trail supporting His Excellency the President, William Ruto. I was with him so many times in my constituency and out of my constituency. And I can confirm to them that this regime is going to be better than the last regime. What was not able to be achieved in the last regime will be achieved in this very regime. So let our people remain hopeful. Let us be patient. Let us be supportive, and let us be willing to work like our president and deputy president promised yesterday.
Mheshimiwa, you know, we do not want a race of tortoise and turtles, in that we'll be comparing, you know, yourselves with the previous reign. The previous reign also that you started, remember you were elected under the Jubilee ticket.
Yes.
Same applies to Deputy President William Ruto. And therefore, while we could say that, you know, this will be better than the previous regime, we do not want a scenario where it will be a tortoise against a turtle or a turtle against a tortoise, such that there's really not going to be so much so in terms of progress. But because those ones were tortoise, you know, we just make very small, you know, gains that we'd look at and assume that we have done well.
Yeah. So the person we are supporting, or rather the person that we have as president now, is a person that is well known to us, and not just to me alone, but to all Kenyans. He is a person who has been a member of parliament, a minister, and deputy president, and now president. He is a hand worker. He's a person who is very, very, very sober. And he wakes up early in the morning and sleeps late working for this country. So we believe, even looking at the way he has started working in his first day in office, we see hope, and we see that we are going to get into a better place as a country, and that we are going to achieve much more, especially on the things that he has been promising and canvassing around with other Kenyans.
You see, you realize that your description of the person that we're talking about, President William Ruto, and we appreciate as Kenyans and celebrate this win because it's a win for Kenyans and he's a president for every other Kenyan. Also, technically speaking of the persona of, say, his main contender, also the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, a person who's also served this country at that level of, constituency as member of parliament, has ascended to levels of ministerial positions, has ascended to levels of prime minister and all that, and has dedicated his life to the country. Why then that belief on William Ruto and not the Right Honorable Raila Odinga? And I know we're not in that moment of campaign, but we just need to understand, is Raila Odinga really a president that we never had?
Thank you, Linda. Allow me to salute the viewers wherever they're watching us from, and especially my very respectful constituent of Embakasi North constituency. Coming to the debate, let me say that in fact Kenyans have their say, because at least they demonstrated their democratic right to elect the leaders which fronted themselves to the contest of the presidency. Laila was one of the team, because Laila led the Azimio fraternity, or Ruto led the Kenya Kwanza fraternity. The decision made by Kenyans opted various number of options before they casted their vote. One, both of them were selling their manifestos to the public, and the public of Kenya were to decide out of the blueprints that were placed on them where they can be able to place their will. At this particular time, I would say Laila, as a statesman, also has qualities to lead this country. And I cannot stand here to say that actually he's not a performer, because he hasn't gotten that opportunity to lead as a president and failed. And therefore, I cannot cast my vote to say I castigate his performance in terms of delivering this country as the head of state. At this particular time, I would say, yes, comparing both, even personally as a voter, I choose to vote for William Ruto because of various number of options. One, energy. Because at this particular time, I realize that, yes, we need somebody who is robust, who can be able to move with the speed and fix where we think that actually things are not well. And we don't require to give this country into hands where Laila's age could be able to. Because one, I realized that, yes, there is those times of energy when Laila was able to swing, but at this particular time, comparing him with the deputy, with now the president, I was overseeing a scenario where, yes, this country was terribly going wrong and gone wrong economically, and we wanted somebody who can quickly fix these areas. And one is that even the William Samoei Ruto, as a head of state, cannot win this battle alone. He is only a team leader who will require a robust team that will assist him to win his goals. And this is mainly, one, he has a cabinet, which is a working cabinet, which must assist him to fix where he thinks that the government requires to fix. Number two, he has to also have a goodwill to both the levels of executive, both the levels of independent houses. This is judiciary and parliament. Because to make his work easier, I would appreciate that. In fact, he has shown a lot of interest in judiciary and supporting judiciary in areas where it can be able to expand and also does its job freely and fair. Also, the independence of the House. I can tell you, whoever becomes the executive office and they want to molest or to muscle or to keep twisting the members of parliament, cannot accept to win what we call legislators battle well. Right. I think I am expecting that, in fact, William Ruto will go out of his experience. He is going to give independence in what we call legislatures.
And I'm glad that you bring the House, and I think that's where we start from, before we even look at whether he swung to action yesterday. Let's talk about the members of parliament and what played out last week. You were here before the swearing-in process and the getting in of new speakers. And therefore, there was that general feel that there was some essence of, I don't want to call it arm twist, but also, involvement in picking the speakers of the House. And true to it, it was a plus for the Kenya Kwanza side. Was that the president in action already? And can that then perhaps indicate to us that there's a possibility that to some extent the executive will hugely be involved in how the legislatures or the legislators then get to address the matters at the House?
One reader would say we're having an experience of 3 spontaneous houses. Yeah. I did realize that, in fact, the executive does involve themselves too much, and most of the time they would like to call shots and at least create an environment where the members should line in a certain direction. This is quite okay, because that's why the reason why we have political parties. Yeah. But to me, leader, what I can say first and foremost is that actually our political parties has a lot of powers. You find that at times when there is issues to deliberate for the interest of the Kenya, or Kenyans, you realize that at least you may be having your independent mind on where to cast your vote, but you might be directed otherwise, not where you really stand on your principle.
And what will guarantee you as the 13th House that this will not happen again?
This leader, probably it may still escalate or it may stop. It will depend on the principles of the head of state. If he decides to give freedom to the House, then he will entrust the members of the House. And this way, I can tell you, members are all equal. And I can tell you, leader, when we have important issues to debate on the room or the floor of the House, members does not at most time look to those elements of where they have come from, their political parties. But at a point where that there is so many interests, you realize that actually members are whipped by their parties, and then to take a stand on a particular agenda. This is where we go wrong, because this particular point, the independence of the members is being ruined. And I can tell you for sure, if we can stop that habit, that behavior, I think if it can come to an end, I think the House, the Parliament can be able to enjoy that independence. Because I believe, if I have an independent mind and I think that this is the right direction, let me cast my vote according to my conscience. And if that can how do you enjoy an independent House? It's only when you have independent mind, independent decision making.
But just who is to determine and to guarantee that? I thought members of parliament are great brains that we have elected that, can stand their ground, can confidently tell the executive, while we align to this party, while we were elected on this very party, while we are sitting on these committees, courtesy of this great party, it is important for you to understand that we have independent minds and we're here to serve the people and not the executive. Who is to guarantee us that? Because if you listen to Honorable Jimmy Gakuya here, he is almost painting a picture of where, sometimes as members of parliament, you're twisted. You've been part and parcel of the 12th parliament. You are under Jubilee, only to shift to UDA, perhaps out of the experience of this. Who is to guarantee the people of Kenya that members of parliament will be strong enough, formidable enough, and capable to address the matters without interference? Okay,
Linda, being independent does not necessarily mean going against the government. you know, it is Kenya Kwanza that formed government.
Yes.
And it made promises to Kenyans. And now it requires the House and the laws in the House to actualize the aspirations of the Kenyan people. And the bottom line is consultation. You know, when there is consultation in the party leadership, in parliament, members of parliament can always arrive to one agreement and to support this idea or to reject it. So what I foresee is a situation whereby this government and the Kenya Kwanza coalition will be engaged so much in consultation, and it has already started happening. Since the president was declared the winner of the 2022 general elections, he has met members of parliament, the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group, a couple of times with the aim of engaging them and finding a middle ground on the issues that require to be addressed. And I can tell you, even before the end of this week, you are likely to see another meeting, whereby the president will be consulting with the members of parliament. That is not to say that the members of parliament will not be independent. Parliament is independent of the executive, but you see, for the smooth running of affairs in government, consultation is key, and we can really move forward when we are consulting.
Can you confidently say that you can stand against the forces of loyalty as well as sycophancy?
Yes, that we should do. When you are elected a member of parliament, you are elected to go and represent your people. And it is not criminal to have a different opinion from the other people. Actually, even in yesterday's inauguration ceremony at Kasarani, the deputy president was very keen to say that in Ruto's government, anyone is free to disagree and to hold a different opinion from the president or from the government's position. So we believe that even though we belong to Kenya Kwanza coalition, we can have a different opinion and stand by it, because it is important for one to state what they believe in. Yes.
All right, and we'll be coming to DP's address.
Linda, I would say this. In the last two parliaments, there was a procedure, which to me, I wasn't comfortable with. And this applies to our county assemblies. One, members have been elected in a particular party. They have the majority in the House, including now the county chambers. But you realize that actually parties are so powerful that they will just issue a strike of a pen and dictate members of that county assembly on who will be the majority leader, who will be so and so. Then the powers of those members are being ruined, taken away by the party. Because I believe on a very democratic way and democratic way of handling issues, members elected must be equal. You should not blame any member that he is a newcomer, because the last parliament exited, and whoever is elected is a member. And that's why the speaker who has been there previously cannot adjudicate duties in the current parliament unless he's elected afresh. And therefore, you realize that, in fact, if we can give members elected power from the beginning, because the parties make wrong things at the beginning. Now that we want to constitute these counties and the parliament too, you realize it is the highest time that we would like to see that element being a thing of the past. Allow those elected members to decide who will be, just constitute committees. Leave the committee members power to decide who will chair their committee, who will be their deputy, and who will be so and so. But once you dictate to them, that the fellow that you dictate to be the one, he looks like a prefect, and therefore you start wrongdoing from the one. In the chamber, this is now parliament. I also wish that, in fact, that procedure has been there twice, but I wish we can change that tradition and allow members to make choice from within their own who can be able to take the mantle of the chairman in a free and democratic elections of those committees. And that's why you can empower people and feel, why do you want to tell me that so-and-so is more superior than you? And probably you have been elected by the majority vote, but you are being dictated to be taken through or to be led by a minority. You don't know what are the clusters to consider all these things.
And maybe Kenyans would want to understand.
These are the things that we need to say. Parties should go slow and allow the elected members to take their role. Otherwise, those are that is the first place we go wrong. But if you can give room to the members to decide who will take this, then the conducive remote will be there and it will move on.
What goes into the processes of getting these heads of committees and members of certain committees? Because I think we are at the heart of that, and we've seen lots of lobbying, and we've also seen, some of these people trying to align to Kenya Kwanza, perhaps just to sweeten the hearts of a majority of you, so that, when it comes to picking those ones that are going to be members of the committee, then they're lucky enough. Just what goes into this, and why is it that it's such a luxurious thing? I remember the other time when the members of Jubilee were being whipped away, those ones that were in Tanga, whipped away from these committees. It was quite, a sad and somber moment, perhaps bringing us to the level we are today.
Linda, much of the work, and actually most of the work in Parliament is done through committees.
Yes.
And we have several committees running up to around 30-something committees. And of course, in the last Parliament, we were caused to agree, or rather to vote, for those leaders that had been
chosen by the party.
Okay. And while I agree with what Mheshimiwa is saying, the process of consultation is very also important, because if you do not consult on who becomes the chair and who becomes the vice chair, it is very, very, very possible. You campaign together, you run a campaign together.
Yeah.
That is why the party leadership comes into the affairs of the formation of committees.
Okay.
Because you made promises together, you campaign together. And in the process of forming government, you do not want to run the risk of taking the leadership of committees in one region. You see, as a party leader, you have got to be considerate that some members must come from this side, others must come from the other side.
Okay.
If you go and allow the members of Parliament to go and just vote without consultation on maybe how those positions can be shared, it is very likely that you can have members of Parliament holding leadership positions and coming from one region, which is not good for Kenya. That is the reason why slightly I would differ with...
But as members of Parliament, don't you understand that? Are you not privy to that information that would say, well, the two of you are coming from the mountain within yourselves and reason together and say that, well, maybe we need to consider someone from Western region, we need to consider someone from Nyanza region. I mean, as members of Parliament, does it require the guidance of two gentlemen? And when I say two gentlemen, then I'm speaking about the executive, the president and their deputy, who then will be heads of these very parties.
Linda,
and like for Kenya Kwanza, for instance, the balance is almost automatic. Same applies to Azimio One Kenya. Why? Because these are formations that are of leaders hailing from different regions, and evidently you can almost see the face of Kenya when you're looking at these alliances. So don't you think it will almost fall into place?
Linda, these positions of chair and vice chair, including belonging to certain committees, come with their own power and privileges.
Okay.
So it is not always very easy to have members agree by themselves on who should chair which committee.
Okay.
Just like you've heard from my colleague here, all members of Parliament are equal.
Yes.
And were elected by their respective constituents. And so they are equal.
They fit the bill.
They are equal. They fit the bill. But it is not always easy to agree by yourselves. That allow me to be the chair of the budget committee, allow me to be the vice chair, or rather of the infrastructure committee. It is not always very easy. So a lot of other factors, like you agree with me, very soon you will see the president forming his cabinet.
Yeah.
You will see, we will get a CS for infrastructure. He somewhat thinks of the person maybe who should become the CS for infrastructure. And you do not also risk having a CS for infrastructure coming from the same area as the chair of the infrastructure committee in Parliament. So there is that balancing act. And we must leave it to the party, but we suggest that we must be consulted on these positions.
All right.
Adding a slide there, I would say, the best thing to do it is not just to interfere with the Mchuzi.
Yeah.
But what that leadership should do is to just give a guidance. On way. Yes. Here we have various number of positions. And according to our view, we think that actually, if these thoughts can go to this region, don't dictate to us who will take the mantle of that particular position.
Are there instances where you
let them
distribute
the committees as per region?
All right.
But leave the decision of who will take this mantle to to the committee members.
Are there instances that you consider qualifications? Like, for instance, you say now this is a person who's studied economics, and therefore when we think about this leadership at the level of the House, then we're thinking the budget committee will definitely have to have brains that have studied
Leader
economics.
For sure. Once you give your CV, and once you register as a new member in the House, you also give out your CV.
All right.
So your CV is available. And therefore, if any member wishes to see whether you qualify to be in that particular category,
then
you just look at that. Yes. And let me tell you, taking into consideration that actually this is the parliament where majority has come back with over 50%. Then we know each other and knows each other's strength. And therefore, it is also easy to guide within ourselves who can be able to take this mantle and who can do.
The new ones, do they have a chance at all?
Because it is not fair.
They do, yeah? Okay.
Yes, it is not fair just to leave everything to the decision of the executive. That is where the arm twist starts. Yes, because surely those who feel they are downplayed, then from that point, you have a loophole.
But just how hard is it to say no, Mheshimiwa? I keep asking this because you see the people...
You will say no, but probably you are no...
You'll be whipped.
The whipped, I believe that is an idea which is passed under the bridge, because I'm not sure that actually the likes of the president and his deputy are the people who take that direction. Also, we witnessed that actually in the last parliament, we have areas where there are grey areas within the ODM. But ODM never whipped their people. They never whipped their candidates. Like you see in the case of the former member of parliament of KDV, that the man who contested for governor and didn't win. We call her what? She was Aisha Juma.
Yes.
Was elected through ODM party. She was able to be given a position in what we call the Parliament Service Committee.
Yes.
And let me tell you, issues to whip her from that position arise. But let me tell you, Odinga himself, he prayed that goal. And that lady has finished her tenure in that particular capacity. And therefore, it does not mean that you must whip your people to just make sure that you have disciplined them.
There was a lot of altercation as to that, whether to de-whip her or not, but all these conversations are here. But then again, rewarding party loyalty is also one thing that is very, very important. And you speak of Aisha Juma reminds me of how he's also complained that we're having people from this other side shifting to this other side, purporting to sell the agenda of the government. We all understand that is based on the question of interest. And perhaps, Mheshimiwa, do you suppose it is time now that we have your government, President William Ruto then puts a cut and say, you know what, can you stick on the other side and let's work as you are part and parcel of opposition, instead of him warming up to those ones that are coming to this other side? I had pundits yesterday who argued that this is the time for him to drop those ones that think that they know him so much. And so I'd want to assume those are the loyals of the party. Is it possible for him to function without incorporating the interests of the loyals?
First of all, William Ruto is not that kind of a person who abandons his people. If you look at him, he has people he has worked with for a very long time. So he treasures friendship, and I can promise you he's not going to abandon his people. But again, he is the president of Kenya, a symbol of national unity. What do you expect of a person who is a symbol of the national unity?
Have everybody come to this other side?
He should be one person who is accommodative. And you've seen that from the time he was declared president-elect. He has been meeting people from all walks of life, from all counties and constituencies. Even in the places where he was not given a lot of support, he has been meeting those leaders because he understands now the campaigns are over and it is time now to move Kenya forward. And you do not want to move Kenya forward as you leave some areas behind. So what do? You engage the leadership in those areas. You have conversations with them so that you can help, you can map a way to help the people from all over the country.
Possible is it for them to strike a balance and get to a level where they'll say it's fine, we are here, we're selling this ideology as Kenyans, but most importantly, they must stick on the side of opposition. How will they be checked in the event where they're speaking the same language? I mean, and maybe that's the reason why it's been hard for us to separate then what Right Honorable Raila Odinga stands for and what President Uhuru Kenyatta stood for. Because then it appeared that...
Tutulie wananchi tafadhali! Tutulie wananchi!
Right Honorable Raila Odinga to castigate the same government that Uhuru would be running.
Being in the opposition does not necessarily mean that you
have to disagree. But Mheshimiwa, you know what? You really understand the difficulty that comes with that. And you also have seen how opposition has worked before. You have seen the Right Honorable Raila Odinga of before and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga of today. I am instructed that we take a quick short break and then we come back.
Stories. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out.
Mheshimiwa, you're back. We are back. And yes, I think on the very same question, I mean, quite a thin line for us to get to understand that it's fine. You do not have to differ if you're on the opposition side, and that's healthy. That, in fact, would be a tremendous growth as to the question of, democracy and the growth of democracy. But I mean, we've been here long enough to have seen the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who's been there before, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who was still opposition, but working with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Can you clearly tell that, well, there was an opposition in Parliament?
Linda was saying that being in the opposition does not necessarily mean you disagree with everything that the government says or stands for. Being in the opposition simply means that you did not form government. You are competitors. You didn't form government. But you see, these people who are now in the opposition are at the same time representatives of the people.
Yeah.
And they need also to align their people to opportunities that may benefit them. So it is not a mistake for a leader who was elected in the opposition party to be seen to be consulting with the government of the day, because even those that belong to the opposition are still citizens of Kenya and deserve to be served in by this government. But at the same time, Linda, it is not the responsibility of the government to ensure that the opposition is strong. It is the responsibility of the opposition to organize themselves, because they were contesting against Kenya Kwanza government, so that they formed their own government. So it is their responsibility to organize themselves and to keep alive with the aim of forming government next time.
And they're saying that they're going to do that, and they also have gone ahead to say or propose that they should be given funding. I mean, is that really necessary?
Within the law,
if the law be enough,
if the law allows that they be given resources, let them be given resources. But at the same time, the political parties receive funding. We believe that the money that they'll receive from the political the registrar of political parties, they'll use it now to organize activities, organize themselves so that they can form government next time.
A coalition of parties, let's remind ourselves of what happened with the NASA coalition and when it came to the question of funding. And I mean, if there's a main reason why today we had the earthquake and we had Musalia Mudavadi as well as Moses Wetangula on this as the side of Kenya Kwanza, I will tell you it's because of the party funding, that within themselves they could not agree on who gets a share, who gets the lion's share, that ODM pocketed almost everything, which really got these other parties disgruntled. And therefore, even before we think of how they're going to make sure that they divide these monies within the small parties that are under Azimio One Kenya, I mean, it will be interesting to watch how then they'd be able to manage that and even imagine of how they can handle a formidable opposition in Parliament.
You know, it was the first time the political parties were receiving funds from government. And so there were those teething problems that political parties faced as they tried to share what came from government. But now, from that time, the law has been amended. And it is just last year that the law was amended. And it is now clear on how political parties should share resources.
The monies,
Yeah, even to the benefit of the parties that are very small. So I believe this is not going to be a problem going forward. But it is now upon the Azimio party, because it is a party by itself, to know how they will remain together while receiving their resources individually, so as to form a strong opposition that will keep the government of the day in check. Yes.
All right, my question then would be, how long do you suppose they will hold? And how long will Kenya Kwanza hold as well?
Kenya Kwanza, we believe that Kenya Kwanza will hold to the end, because we believe in the party leader and the ideas of the party leader. He is a person who brings people together. And this is not my own perception of him only. It is common knowledge to all Kenyans that he's a person who brings leaders together from all walks of life, irrespective of their class. But now for the opposition, I feel for them, because their uniting factor was Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga, looking at him now, I do not personally think that he will be very strong going forward. He may decide to hang the boots. If he decides to hang the boots, the issue of who takes over is not very clear.
Okay.
So I do not, you see, Kalonzo was yesterday saying that they are reorganizing themselves to know how to check government. But this Kalonzo, we have been with him for a while.
Okay,
so
I change his tune, eh?
Yeah. So I see a very bleak future for them.
Yeah.
And I don't see them forming a very strong opposition. Actually, that opposition may die along the way.
Which one will survive? Is it Kenya Kwanza or Azimio One Kenya Alliance? And when we say survive, at least halfway the journey, the possibilities of the government under the watch of President William Samoei Ruto and the face of the Chief Minister Musalia Mudavadi, who are also the key figures that came in to form the Kenya Kwanza. The fact that UDA enjoys quite a massive support at the level of parliament and across, even when you look at those ones that have been elected in different cadres of leadership. Don't you think at some point in time they'd want to show their stamina, they'd want to confirm and affirm that we are the strongest and therefore try to weaken the other parties that are within? Just how strong and formidable and true to his word is Deputy President William Ruto, who once said that he's not interested in coalitions, if you would remember very well. He said, the only coalition I'm interested in is a coalition with Mama Mboga, a coalition with Mkenya wa kawaida. But then, as the forces and as the tides would dictate, he had no choice but to incorporate Musalia Mudavadi, incorporate, Moses Wetangula, who were very instrumental to his win. Just what are the chances that Kenya Kwanza then would hold?
Linda, coming to that, let me say, the first example is the concluded both houses election of speakers. You realize that, in fact, the number, the total number maybe, which is the Kenya Kwanza fraternity, was close to maybe, including the nominated, to 191. This is including those purported other affiliates that are joined later after election.
Yes.
But Leader, if you are following the procedure, you realize that one Wetangula managed to garner 215 votes against 130.
Yeah.
This tells you that actually there was an extraordinary number which were swayed to
in favor of.
In favor of.
Yeah.
And that is how the House should learn. The House should not learn on what we call commands. Allow members to have their say. And this one, like, you can't go wrong.
Wetangula was a say for the members and nothing to do with the party? Nothing
I can
to do
tell
with
you
rewarding him? Yes.
Both parties whipped their PGs.
Okay.
And therefore, the Azimio went to Longai and they sat. They decided on their candidates. But coming to the floor, many of them went against that particular agreement of the Azimio fraternity.
Okay.
This tells you what? Those members want to cast their independence vote.
Okay.
Which is, if one leader, you have probably persuaded me, and you have and you have convinced me. I feel that I have a duty to do.
Right.
I would go that direction.
Yeah.
And that's how we managed to get 46 votes in Senate, and 215 votes in the chamber of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
Going forward, what I would wish is this. William Ruto does not require unnecessarily handshake with Raila or with Ruto or with the Kalonzo.
Okay.
What you require is to have that conducive environment with the members.
Okay.
Because now he's beyond a party leader. He has become a president of the whole Republic of Kenya. Every member or a citizen has a duty to seek any guidance, any support from the head of state.
Yes.
And therefore, if any member feels that at least the head of state, I believe the route he's taking the nation is the best way, allow that member to align himself into that. But not necessarily to go to the books and sign memorandums of that, yes, we have closed the bench and now we are Kenya Kwanza. Allow parties to remain as they are.
Okay.
If it is UDM party, they have just closed.
Hatuna wasiwasi, nyinyi waseka, hatutambui kazi.
position.
You refused BBI.
No. It must not be through the drive of the BBI. That is only require a parliamentary act, which does not require an amendment. And therefore,
what is this one against under his very own party? Can't they just receive orders from him? And I mean, they are able to successfully do this. Is it not another creation of baggage for the people?
What I can tell you for sure, that position is very important for soft landing over Ruza. Once you lose and you lose miserably nowhere, then you feel like you have lost totally.
Why should we instead really? I mean, it's a contest.
And instead of this agitating of handshakes, let us have an opposition office, of official leader of opposition. By the time of the last constitution, there was such a position, which worked very well. And I think once a contender lost, actually he knows outright he has an office on the other end, and at least he has something. And he has an office.
Why should we worry about one individual? I mean, you know, we are talking about one individual, say Right Honorable Raila Odinga or any other person who finds his way to the opposition side against millions of Kenyans. And therefore, this one individual, we know very well that while this has been there before and the crafters are we all understand had to give us a winner and a loser.
It is my opinion that we do not necessarily need to bring back the leader of the opposition into the house. You know, being in the opposition and being the leader of the opposition, you can acquire your office somewhere because you have a number of members of parliament.
And again, party funding.
Yes, and party funding. So opposing the government, or rather having a different opinion of the things that the government does
not require an office.
Come back.
Okay.
And looking at one Raila Odinga, the leader of the Azimio party, looking at him, it is time he groomed other leaders under him, so that they take over from him. And this will not happen if perhaps we insist that we create a room for him to come back to parliament. So I believe he can play the role of the opposition leader like it happens in other countries. Not in every parliament across the world where the leaders of opposition have a place in the same house. Others do it and do it very well from outside parliament. So let the leader of the opposition run the affairs of the opposition from outside, but lead his team in the house so that they advocate and advance the ideas of the opposition from the minority side of the house.
Okay.
Although I am not very persuaded, I still think that the law required to do some amendments. One is that you realize that once you are contestant of a presidential list, you cannot contest for a parliamentary seat. So therefore, you cannot earn yourself an opportunity to be in the chamber bench.
Okay.
Number two, also, to nominate yourself when you are in a contest is not even possible. And therefore, you realize that actually these contenders are totally locked out of the house. It's my opinion, because an opinion is just an opinion. It is not a mandatory directive. That if we can consider to do some amendment, then find a way of how any contender who feels that he may require to be in the floor of the house, then there is a softer way for them of getting there. Either through nomination of their own parties or any other formula that can allow them to be in the bench, so that at least as you command your team, and it's also good for you to command the team when you're in the floor, because those powers enjoyed by delegation of one of your member, whoever will come into the floor. To me, I feel that in fact that delegation is okay, but I am sure that most of those candidates feels the pains
Yeah, okay, well, I don't know whether it is for us to figure out how we nurse their pains, but anyway, moving forward, let's get to see how it happens. And we're looking forward to a Ruto presidency. Let's go back to the events of yesterday. Honorable Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
He's a great man.
He is a great man.
He's going to make a great deputy president.
Is it?
Yes.
And Kenyans feel like, we might need to set up an office that will look into the aspect of his speeches and all that. Was it necessary?
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, he's a man who speaks the truth.
Okay.
And sometimes the truth hurts. And many times the truth hurts.
Okay.
So he just spoke the truth. And many people maybe did not expect...
Is the truth always necessary?
What did he say exactly? He said that the criminal justice system will no longer now be used to manage politics. Politics will be managed the conventional way, through persuasion and through conversations.
Was it necessary to remind us that if you were part and parcel of the Ruto team, you were persecuted, that, and was the outgoing president that bad that you had to rub it in his face, or on his face, that indeed you are going home a terrible character? The country did not this. A president that he campaigned for was elected under his very own party.
Actually, let me tell you, it was the best moment for him to say so.
Okay.
Because it is the time he was assuming the office of the deputy president. And that commitment coming from him, that the criminal justice system will not be used to manage politics, was very good. And we will always remind him, should he fall for it, we will always be there to remind him. Remember what you told us on your first day of swearing in? You are not going to use the criminal justice system to manage politics. So Rigathi Gachagua, as I know him, and he is known to very many people, he is a brilliant person who is very conversant with the issues and the suffering of the ordinary people. We believe that most of the things that he will be advocating for are the things that are going to uplift the livelihood of our people and champion the policies of our farmers, the small business people. And he has mentioned it so many times. If you have been listening to him, he has so many times mentioned the police service and talked of improving their livelihood and giving something more than they have been earning. So we believe that he is one person who is going to provide great support to the president. He is a person who has worked very closely with the deputy president, with the president-elect, the president of Kenya right now. So we believe that that good working relationship that has been with them before will go forward. And Ruto choosing on him, I believe he had a background check on him, and he believes that he is the man to help him achieve what he has promised Kenyans. If you have analyzed their movements during the campaign period, and even way before the campaign period, these are people who have suffered similar fate.
Yes.
They have gone through...
They come from way back as well.
Yes. They have worked with President Moi. They have worked with President Kibaki. They have worked with President Moi. So they know what did not work with the President Moi. They know what worked with President Kibaki. And listening to him, he keeps on referring to President Mwai Kibaki's regime, because there are things that happened during that time that he would see happening right now. So we believe that he's going to provide very strong support to the president so that they deliver together. Because if the president fails, he will have lost.
Okay.
And if they lose, then it will be to the disappointment of the millions of the hustlers who took them to that office. So we have a good deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. And I congratulate him so much. Just imagine, he was a first-term member of parliament who rose to become deputy president. It has not happened before. So it is not a mean achievement. And wait, you will see how committed, how hard worker this man is.
You see, there is their style, and that has to be appreciated. But there's also what one would look at as, decorum, and definitely some of these ways that one has to conduct themselves when they get into these spaces of leadership. You will agree with me that the Jimmy Gakuya of today, that the Eric Muchangi of today is totally different from, the Eric Muchangi I would just meet somewhere out there. And we're not trying to say that that is what we saw, that was what we were treated to yesterday. But don't you think there needs to be some essence of decorum in terms of how we handle some of these matters, and especially in such, spaces, in such places where we also have visitors who visited the country, and therefore addresses of this nature would perhaps need a lot of looking into before you're out there in the public?
Linda, I have my own observation.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting just behind the leadership. And what I can see is that we have been always closing to this country, telling Kenyans the oods of the then government. And therefore, this message was well with Kenyans.
Yes.
In such a yesterday's big occasion, I still believe that we went extreme.
Yeah.
It's unfair to humiliate a president who willingly has come to hand over power. The duty of that particular day is celebration of the outgoing and the incoming. And therefore, our Indians should not have been watched at that particular time, because we have our inner issues that should not go to the ears of the guests invited from outside our territories. So I believe there is a lot of bitterness, yes. Our deputy president has been taken through ups and downs of mountains, yes. But just realize one thing, that now the time has come. You are the boss.
Yeah.
Whatever has gone wrong, you can correct, and you have time to correct. Therefore, this man who was willingly allowed himself to come, hand over the tradition,
yes,
gadgets of symbols of leadership, has come. I still believe that yes, though that in a person is quite bitter with the happenings that has happened there previously, I think even though a visitor comes to you and that visitor has not been your friend, you don't tow her or him in front of the other guest. Allow the guest to move, then you can tow him out. So that's only slightly where I realized things went a bit extreme. But it is very good to tell somebody on the face that really you did wrong to me.
Okay.
You've taken us this way. You have taken this country this way. But you have, at the end of the day, through God's miracles and the people of Kenya, they have now handed the mantle to you. So the woods are there. Close the woods. Forget about the woods. Let us move forward. It is important to not forget what transpired, but to forgive is an obvious.
Okay, let's take a short break and come back as well. Look at Deputy President and now the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto's address. To some point also appeared as though he took a swipe or a jibe against his boss, but all the same equally opening his hands and saying that we would love to hear more of you in terms of advisory and in terms of also helping us to manage the nation. But then again, he comes aboard with lots and lots that he has set for the country. Just how possible and easy will it be for him to steer us forward after this short break?
untold stories. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia special.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out.
Of this segment where we take a look at what next Kenya upon the change of guard, and we have new faces of leadership, not necessarily new, perhaps faces we've seen here long enough, but then again they come in with great ideas, great minds, different matters, and we seek to see just how they steer the country forward. Deputy President William Ruto and now President William Ruto. Well, it will take a while for us to make such adjustments, but here we are, and alongside his deputy, that is Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, the men to watch on this very time when the country continues to reel with tough times, the cost of living, the question of corruption, the question of interference of independent bodies, the question of get it right with the international community in terms of how we relate, all this at their very own plate. How do they get it right? How do they steer the country forward? How do they achieve this that they seek? They say they look forward to perhaps what was of the same picture with the President Mwai Kibaki, and perhaps to make it even better. Is there space for that? And that is what I engage the gentlemen on, also as we remind them that they have the mandate to serve us at the level of parliament, and therefore Kenyans are equally watching. Honorable Eric Muchangi as well as Honorable Jimmy Gakuya are with me in studio. And so, Waishimiwa, President Uhuru Kenyatta, President, William Samoei Ruto. And I'm sure this is going to take a while for us to get such adjustments. It's pretty much all, it's tazoea over time. Yeah, tazoea yo sauti, His address yesterday, a raft of matters. I've tried to print that out, and I realized he's touched on very, very many things, but also summarized, also as we look at the papers this morning, speaks of, the question of the judiciary, and has come out so strong in terms of saying that he would want to strengthen the judiciary. I don't know whether it's a move to say thank you, or generally there's that need for the judiciary to be strengthened as an arm of government for us to enjoy the best of the rule of law. He also speaks of how he's going to address the question of the Mombasa port. These ones are almost instant, and today we're expecting the swearing-in process of the 6 judges to take space. Judges that President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his own wisdom, decided he's not going to swear in. At that point when he was asked, he said it's because, they had integral issues. He did not bring this to the fore, but then the deputy proceeds to say that now that I am president, I want them on board. I mean, some of these matters that he touches on, what do you make of them? And what are the possibilities that he would be able to achieve them successfully?
Okay, looking at the president's first speech yesterday, of course, it was very promising, and we believe that having an independent judiciary is very important for a country, and the judiciary cannot be independent if it is not underfunded, or if it doesn't have enough staff including the judges. I believe that the president had already consulted and dwelled on the issue of the judges before deciding to appoint them. So I believe he did just think of appointing them. No, he must have done a background
due diligence,
check.
all right.
Yes, and consulted on appointing them. Secondly, I was very, very impressed when, in his first speech, addressed the issue of CBC. Because this is an issue that is bothering so many parents and stakeholders. And he agreed to form a forum where public participation will be done.
Yeah.
And this is different from what we have seen in the past, because one of the biggest problems with CBC was that the CS in charge of education, instead of dealing with the issue of CBC through consultation, it was about chest thumping and saying that CBC is here to stay. While you're saying CBC is here to stay, you haven't explained clearly to the stakeholders and to the parents how this new system of learning is going to be implemented. And then it became very expensive, such that the ordinary parent, that peasant parent, cannot afford to buy the things that are required of their pupils to go through the learning. So in the end, what is likely to happen in this country is that we are going to have a class difference, whereby those parents who are able to afford the things that CBC required will have their kids better than those who did not afford.
Okay.
So the government ought to have done good consultation. But now we are happy that in the new leadership, consultation is going to happen on the issue of CBC. Then on the issue of SGR and the port operations. So he has committed that the operations at Mombasa port will
go.
And what happens is that so many people are now going to get jobs at Mombasa. And I can tell you, the inland container depot does not serve well for everything. Like, for instance, I am a tea farmer and a representative of people who grow tea. I can confirm to you that since the operations at the port of Mombasa were taken to Nairobi, we have been incurring more expenses ferrying our tea to Mombasa than we were doing in the past. So it was not helping out on every matter. And you know, when the cost goes up for the tea farmers to take their tea, to take their commodity to Mombasa, the earnings go low. So we believe that the new ideas that President has are going to work well for Kenyan people, and we're going to get more jobs. Then on the issue of healthcare, this is a thing that bothers our people very, very, very much. Every other day, we have people calling for help so as to fundraise to go and get treated. How can we solve this problem? It is by ensuring that the National Health Insurance Fund is working well. And he committed that people will now pay NHIF as per their earning. Those who earn more will pay more. Those who earn less will pay less. And we know he has already committed that that ordinary person, that peasant person, will pay as little as 300. And you know what happens is that if more and more people pay NHIF, more money will be realized to fund healthcare.
You also realize that NHIF itself is facing lots of difficulties, and therefore I hope then there will be mechanisms of making sure that this is streamlined, because even with the little that we are collecting right now, Kenyans will tell you the difficulties that they go through in that in their access for healthcare, and especially when they know very well that they've paid for this, but yet again they are normally told that now, at the point of payment, you're told, well, NHIF cannot cater for this, cannot cater for this, you can't access this and everything, and the frustrations, they just go home without mentioning this ones to people.
Actually, one of our first agenda in the House when we resume is to deal with the laws that will help healthcare be better in this country.
Okay.
And we believe, even as we do the laws, the leadership and the management of NHIF will be looked into, so that now the funds that will come into it will be properly utilized to fund healthcare. You realize, Linda, that around this time we have around 6.5 million people who pay NHIF. Those that are in government and those that are self-employed, or those who pay from their own pocket. There are around 6.5 million people against a population of up to almost 50 million people. You realize if only around half of the Kenyan population paid NHIF, including that 300 shillings monthly, it would be a lot of money that would be used now to fund healthcare. So we believe this issue looked into will yield something very nice for our country. And lastly, it was very good news for the president to talk about the farmers and to promise that in the next 2 weeks, we will have fertilizer for our people in western, central, and even eastern regions that are going to experience short rains. What that means, you know, the problem, the food shortage that we have in our country, that is occasioning the rise in prices of unga. It is because our farmers have not produced food for our people. For instance, in my constituency, which is largely an agricultural constituency, our farmers are always very willing to do the farming. But what now prohibits them from doing so is the cost of fertilizer and the availability of proper seeds. When they lack fertilizer and proper seeds, they don't do the farming that it should be done. So the president was very keen that he is going to deal with the prices of unga with dealing with the issue of production. Because if farmers produce enough for our country, the prices will automatically come down, and it will be a factor of supply and demand, not dealing with the prices of unga theoretically and telling government to subsidize for the millers so that the price can come down. No, it will be the market will dictate the prices because enough will be produced for the Kenyan people. And our people, I want to tell you, are willing to do the farming.
All right. Interesting. Very many matters there that Mheshimiwa picks on that, are at the heart of, the desires of Kenyans today. And a couple of other matters. There are instances where the boss then speaks of where they're going to pick money and fund this department, money and fund this. And sometimes we ask ourselves, just where is the money? It will be a tough task for them, we have to acknowledge, and they understand that, but they say they are up to task. Based on the things that they articulated, Kenyans will gauge them, perhaps 5 years from now. What are the possibilities that there's going to be that change, that these two are going to surprise us?
Linda, first and foremost, let us agree on one thing, that the government does not have its money. It depends on collecting revenue from the people. So how do you connect the two so that there can be a free flow of paying taxes? Because unless you expand that tax base, then to convince or to be convinced that actually there will be an extra, because at this particular juncture, I am not overseeing any good strategy to start or to create more tax to Kenyans. You need to reduce the burden because the burden has been too big for the donkey to carry. And therefore, what they must apply at this juncture is conducive environment to every sector so that people can be able to enjoy this environment, do their business. If you're a farmer, get your inputs, farmer inputs, as the president alluded himself to, that there will be a fertilizer which is accessible with a price or a cost that actually is comfortable to the farmer. So that, including the what we call the seedlings, so that at least the farmer can enjoy that low cost of the farm inputs. And therefore, the reduction of what we call cost of commodities can slowly come down. But there is no miracle that actually tomorrow the new government can stand to say, we will fix this. You hand Gachagua very, very eloquently saying, they realize that treasury which is almost empty. And that is it. That's how Kibaki found his government. He found an empty exchequer. And what you do is just to put your mechanism. Make sure that now you bring the stakeholders close, find a mechanism on how then you can craft and how you can be able to start now reaping from the people, because it is the people who will help the government to grow. Yes, after they give out their taxes, then the government will limit back as a service. And that's the only way to go. And I am glad to say that I stand with most of the points that the head of state did promise to Kenyans. One is that the element of taking back the issue of clearing back to Mombasa. To me, that's a big plus. One, it is not only going to help the people of Mombasa. Remember that there are many transporters who undertakes their transportation or their transport or commuters using what we call money borrowing from the banks. You realize that actually there was one center on how then the movement of goods from Mombasa to Nairobi will be. Yeah. And that is only relying on that railway. By doing that, deliberately we killed the lorry transporters. Don't forget that those are Kenyans, they have invested. Give a room of what you call freedom to choose. Yeah. Allow the railway transport to be there, goods transport be there. Let it compete with the other competitors in the field. But don't kill them on one strike of the pen. Because where do they go? How are they going to service their loans? Right. In case you just kill their industry at a go. So allow that competition to thrive. So that the railway can introduce very good incentives on how to carry the goods. Then, as a client, you'll be able to choose whether I'll take the trailers or I'll move to the railway. And that is the way we should put it. All right. You realize that most of the town from Mombasa up the way all the way to Nairobi, most of those towns died economically. Why? Because the flow of those lorries are no longer. And this railway does not stop to those centers. Even though it stops, it is carrying nobody. It has only one pilot. And therefore, we need to look in those areas. How can we accommodate everybody else to be part of this? Because we still need those people who are enjoying and reaping from out of this transport from Mombasa to town also to survive. Right. Because failing to consider them, then we are saying we have totally forget about them. Right. Then coming also to the other areas like the CRB, we need to craft a law, find a way, because once you are blacklisted, can you just imagine that no bank can be able to honor your application for loan? Yeah. So it is also good for the rest of the SMEs, because most of them, going by the effects that were carried by the COVID effect, I believe that most of the SMEs moved to those borrowings through their Safaricom apps and so on. I think most of them, in tune of millions, are now hanged at that element of CRB. And we still need them to help the country grow. But they cannot access any single loan. So unless then we craft something which will be able to flex them from where they are being hanged, I think the government has to take, and that's a good direction. The other thing is that, in fact, you realize he also talked about the CBK. The CBK has been very pinned to considering that, in fact, you cannot be able to deposit any extra coin above $1 million without explaining where the source of the money. You cannot even withdraw your money, and it's your money in the bank. You must put conditionalities where you are taking, the reason why you are taking in cash, why you are not doing transfers. I think those kind of pyramids should be removed so that at least people are not depositing their money in Somalia or Uganda, because you cannot be able to deposit your money here because of what we call witch hunt. I think if we can clear that barrier of witch hunt, then this country can thrive. And if move out of this country, go to Swiss. Swiss is a very different country. But you realize that you get there with your dollars, you just open an account and deposit your money. And let me tell you, that don't lock people out of spending. They allow people to have at least a wider way and remove those brackets of which hand.
But just how did you get to that level?
This one, I am telling you.
The morals of collapse.
The question here lies is how you can be able to afford to money laundering.
Yeah.
But still have people in place. They will be able to know the source of that money.
Okay.
Yes. Why then do you put a caveat and barrier to people? If that money is coming from point Z, then these guys are aware and they are able to question from the source of the money. Then there's no importance of harassing you when the money is already in your account.
Yeah.
Yes. Trace the source. Then you are comfortable with the source of the money. Then it's well explained. Allow people to drive business.
Okay.
And I think that direction will help us. And finally, there is also an element where this is where I have the issue to do with appointment of those judges. To me, it was a long overdue. Because the head of state, what he could do in the first place, he could have appointed these judges to their benches. In case he had issues with them, then he could have now constituted a panel of now to investigate.
Okay.
By the way of the report that will be able to be presented to him is where then he could be able to strike the pen to say, this one is recommended, this one is not, this one is not, and based on this report, then I am satisfied this one is fit or not. But allow these people to be in their benches, and then you have rocked them from being upgraded. That one, to me, it was just killing their morale, which is not fair. And therefore, I would say it was a long overdue. And for the progress, that's the way to go. If the current head of state will be persuaded that he need to take action out of whatever his predecessor has been placed on the table, then he can institute a panel just to investigate whether those monies were genuine or not. And I think that way.
Has he ever promised the judiciary, and I mean also with the question of the funding, has he taken so much to that direction? Perhaps he would have needed to look into
I can tell you for sure, all through the judiciary has been underfunded. And what maybe is impossible is maybe the amount. But still the amount is not big, depending with the head of state. He may be looking areas of other concerns where there can be what we call slice and top up. Because if that is considered, because there are those important areas and there are those other areas that can be able to operate within a certain budget, then there can be what we call reorganization.
Okay.
You can do reorganizations, and then the sectors that are not really require such a big, huge of amounts, then can be sized and top up to the judiciary. Because one, we need a working judiciary.
Yes.
We need to empower the judiciary. Then we should not forget that we need also mobile courts.
Right.
Yeah? We cannot be able to have them without funding. We need also to make sure that instead of people walking a long distance to go to seek this justice, make sure that there are those courts allowed within themselves.
Okay.
And therefore, that cannot be realized without extra pending in the judiciary. So it's not a bad direction, it's a good direction. It's only that he'll be able to do balancing, considering that this country is already at red tape in terms of borrowing.
Okay.
Then I think that the huge deal that here is for the head of state to start now bargaining with the readers, so that at least they can also give him a soft start.
Okay.
Now that at least we know China has read us to a tune of a certain number of trillions, if there can be a window, how these particular loans can be extended or can be pushed ahead, allow him maybe a year or an interim year, so that he can be able to reorganize his government. Then he started paying the loans. And I think that direction can also assist him in at least mobilizing himself towards building back this country. This country, we need funding.
Yes,
and
it's the economy that is...
Yes, and there's no way that you can say that all the money you are collecting are to pay debt. And you have a lot of hope and expectation by the Kenyans also to do their part.
To sustain the budget.
Yes, then you have to strike a balance on how to go forward. And I'm sure with William, he's capable of this.
Well, Mheshimiwa, lots of feedback. First of all, you've heard the caller, Major, who's watching us this morning, appreciating your contribution, but equally reminding you, Mhesh, that, you need to be radical and truthful to these people. So moving forward, then we know that our matters will definitely be addressed. Lots of your constituents also appreciating your contribution. One person saying, as to the question of CBC, that CBC really does not need to be scrapped off. It needs more funding. And of course, the question of funding as to where this money will come from is one thing that we really need to see. And we need the president to move in with speed. Before we close it, allow us to discuss the 48 governments that we have, the national government and the 47 counties. And on the question of devolution and how, yes, and also the diaspora, actually. And it is very, very important for us to look into this. All these are channeling some funds into the coffers, to the national coffers at large, and equally all of them look forward to that coffer as well to feed them. For President William Ruto to be successful after 5 years, his success will hugely also be pegged on how devolution will work in the country. The 47 governors, in relation to his vision, how can they sink into that? How can they gel into that? Also knowing that some of them do not subscribe to what he sells as an ideology.
Sure. What we have witnessed in the recent days is the newly sworn-in governors injecting ghost workers. We have seen a number of them parading employees, and we have found that we have very many ghost workers working in our county government. Then the other aspect that has come out very clearly is the issue of mismanagement of the revenues that are happening in the counties. You see, you realize each and every county has a target of the money that they should generate from within. Even before expecting more money from the national government, every county should have mechanisms of raising revenue from its own people. Because again, we can only build this country and our counties through our revenues. So for us to do that, people must pay taxes. But now the big question comes in. How do we spend our taxes? In the previous years and months, we have seen people people collect taxes, and instead of channeling it to the government coffers, they take it to their own bank accounts and do not account for it. So if there is a thing that the county governments must deal with, is the issue of wastage of the revenues that are generated from within. Secondly, the revenue that comes from the national government, the shared budget. The counties must ensure that this money is properly utilized so as to benefit our counties. Our counties are very good units for progress, because you realize a county that is well run will move very many steps ahead of some other counties. So it is my prayer that the governors that we have, the 47 of them, will move with speed, seal those loopholes where there is wastage, weed out all those ghost workers, so that they can now streamline their operations, including the healthcare. Because again, we have seen counties like Nakuru County, like Tharaka Nithi County, with counties with very good healthcare systems. And you see now healthcare as a devolved function. The governors have a lot of input to do towards making it work. Then again, the members of the county assembly. What we have witnessed before, at the inception of the previous 2 terms, since we got the county governments, is the issue of impeachment. There is impeachment today, impeachment tomorrow, and people waste a lot of time around the impeachments. So a lot of resources are wasted, because again, if a governor is not free to do his work, if a governor has matters with the Senate, is going to the courts to stop the impeachment, I can tell you there isn't so much work that is going to be done. So while it is a provision in law that you can impeach a governor, we also would like to see MCAs, many MCAs coming of age, so that at least we do not have instances where every other time we have an impeachment in this county and an impeachment in another county.
Allow us to take a short break and then come back, wind up on that very matter after this break.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
As a government-sponsored student, joining Mount Kenya University was the best decision I ever made.
With over 165 fully accredited programs and state-of-the-art learning facilities, you literally have the world in your hands in terms of career choice.
The learning is not only uninterrupted, but also supported through ICT. And within no time, you're done with your studies.
Make the right choice by joining Mount Kenya University.
Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
I've been a throw up the.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a
Honorable Eric Muchangi as well as Honorable Jimmy Gakuya. I said that the previous lap was the last laps, but then again I have a grace period of about 10 minutes or thereabout for us to wind up on this matter that is very, very important. It should be the third phase of devolution, and therefore from the pioneer governors who served 2 terms, they exited the stage, we still are looking forward to see devolution work. Many have said that devolution is the best thing that could happen to the people, only and only if we get it right. And Mheshimiwa here raises a very pertinent point. And sometimes we even speak to Kenyans and remind them that, if you get to elect a leader, to power for the first time, can you allow them another time so that they can execute a majority of these things that they would not have easily gotten within the first 5 years? But mostly you find that we are always in the business of, getting one leader, the next 5 years they're out, getting another. Before these other ones get the grip, it's too late, it's 5 years. And so we really do not get to experience development. In a case of devolution, dealing with the governors and making it work, what do these two really need to do to make sure that it is successful at the county level? Then that will translate to what happens overall.
Thank you, Linda. One thing is that, in fact, most of our revenues goes to the devolution, to the devolution units, or devolved units. And you realize that, in fact, the performance of the devolved units are very minimal. In this particular case, I think there has to be an audit. One, there is no linkage in the Constitution of monitoring the funds that we devolve to the counties. You realize, even though there is a ministry which is being left with what we call policy making, it has no structure on how to monitor those funds, which trickles down to the counties. And you realize that the biggest mistake we have is that any amount of money which trickles to the county, no matter whether this money was a grant, and the grant should go specifically to the unit, the smallest unit that actually it has been devolved to go. But you realize that actually when that money goes to the kitty of the county, that money are being redirected to other use or the most urgent needs of that county are given priority to spend or to expend that particular money for the grant. So what I think is that, in fact, that linkage should be there. and that monitoring, clause has to be there somewhere, so that at least the monies that the national government devolves to the county can be checked. Though we have what we call the Auditor General. The Auditor General only audits after expenditures of the money has been expended. But it's better to have a check when these monies are being devolved and get to the county, whether this money goes to the right place. I think governors could, because they are part of the government, what they should do, first and foremost, is to make sure that they give what importance of every field that they normally execute. And if it is an area where there's a gray area of health, because that particular area of health, no single governor can start to say he has performed well in it. And if this particular health issue cannot be able to be performed at the county level, then the governors, because they have a council, should come back to the national government and request for this particular unit of health to be taken back to the national government, so that at least those more things that actually are not happening can be able to be taken care of by the national government. The other thing is that you realize in the counties, most of the monies goes to what we call these expenditures. Right. And you realize the money that has been left to go to what we call development is quite minimal. And let me ask, if we have devolved like 300 billion, and we cannot realize even a 10 billion project nationally, then we are wrong.
We're getting it wrong.
We are getting it wrong. Because surely, the county government duty is not just to pay to pay dues to the workers. Those workers has to also justify their salaries. By doing what? By making sure that services are done to the people. Because the essence of this devolved union and two-tier of government is for the service to be closer to the people. And then if the same service is not realized, then we are wrong somewhere. Right. So for the first and foremost is to make sure that our governors achieves what the Constitution envisages. And if we can go that direction, we can be somewhere. But if, leader, you want to tell me, the county of Nairobi, which receives 17 billion, out of 17 billion, and they normally collect revenue from within their jurisdictions, the domestic collection, you top it up, and have at least a rough estimate of 30 billion for the Nairobi county. And then at the end of the day, you realize that we can't have even see 5 billion in terms of development. Then we are wrong. All what we collect goes to fill the gaps of those other expenditures, but in terms of development, we are seeing none. Then we are wrong. That's telling us that we are insolvent, and that particular institution is supposed to be closed, like they said.
Wow, you know, it is.
So it's the duty of our governors,
yes,
to make sure that they are accountable.
Okay.
To make sure that they are factionable. To make sure that counties are factionable. Because you cannot purport to be a president of that county, and yet the services are no longer there. And you are still always crying that the government is not doing its part. What the government should do is to make sure that the remittation to those counties are done in good time.
Well put.
Don't make those late disbursements.
And I mean, that
allow them to get their dues in good time.
Yes.
And then let us task them to see the good development to Wanjiku. And also, then there's another element where you realize Wanjiku does not monitor what is happening in the county.
Right.
Wanjiku monitors what the CDF works and other areas. But they are forgetting that they are the people, the watchdogs of the governors. They should be taking the governor to task.
The common mwananchi.
Yes, the common mwananchi.
That's true.
Yes, don't allow governors to work as if they are working on their own.
Okay,
yes.
I don't know how much of capability and stamina we have, but then again, it is for us to watch how much change the new leaders that, I mean, we have today, including these ones that we have on set, will bring on board. Mheshimiwa, close it up for us.
Okay, three very brief things. One, you know, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Right.
And we believe that these governors did not contest for the sake of contesting.
That's true.
It must be that they have a dream and a vision that they want to accomplish for their own people. So even before checking them, oversighting them, or even doing many things to ensure they are accountable, they should individually purpose to achieve for the people, because we believe they are in those positions for a reason. Secondly, the members of the county assembly, because not everyone has the constitutional mandate to oversight the governors. Yes, we know we have the office of the Auditor General, we know we have the Senate, but at the ward level and at the county level, we have the members of the county assembly. We believe that they have got a role of oversighting the operations and the expenditure at the county government level, as well as formulating the budget for the county. So let them not let our people down. They are a very important people at the ward level, and they must not leave their roles to other bodies. Then again, those that belong to Kenya Kwanza, there is something that I know back in my mind, that our party leader and the president of Kenya will not allow them to let Kenyans down. We campaigned together. I know he has a responsibility, and he has in his heart and mind to ensure that he brings them together and pushes them to perform for our people, because when we succeed together, it is for the betterment of our people. So I believe the president also, like you have heard him, I believe you have heard him say that he will mentor young leaders. What does that mean? That he is keen to see them deliver for the people of Kenya. You have seen him also expressing his mind on reprimanding leaders. I am sure he will do it. What he says, he does.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament of Runyenjes constituency, Eric Muchangi. Runyenjes is in Embu, right?
Yes.
All right. Asante sana. Mheshimiwa, your parting shot.
Rida, my parting shot is that, in fact, now we are past campaigns. Now it is road to development, road to work. I would ask every single Kenyan to be part of this agenda. You, wherever you are, wherever your field is, whatever you do, just make sure that you do extraordinary mile in hard working. It's only hard work that can put us out of this colonial barrier of economy. So that in fact, even though we have very good leaders at the top, they cannot be able to succeed without our hard work. Therefore, let us all together, all the different regions of this republic, can we get to work? Let us now be serious. Let the government enable us, give us a member environment, and then we take the opportunity to grab it and then work for the nation and move on.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Edward Bushuru says, I'm not sure why we talk too much about funding while we understand that we overprice contracts and items. We still 50% to 70% of allocated funds. President Ruto will only be good if he kills graft. Only. Well, we're looking forward to greatness. Thank you so much for the great and immense feedback, my people. Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, right here in Nairobi. Asanteni sana. Eyes on you. We'll be looking to see the proceedings of Parliament and how different the 13th Parliament then would be. We cross over to Kisii County. Alfayo is on standby with the people. I always say that I'll remain true to you because it's also important that we get to hear the voice of the people, indeed the voice of God. And therefore, on this moment of the Baraza, let's get to hear what Alfayo Kombo has in store for us with the people of Kisii. Alfayo, if you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning, Linda.
Alfayo.
Meeting you very well from this side of
all right, good morning. Thank you.
From Kisii County on the issue where, being that today is the second day of leadership of His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And I have people with me here, some residents, border riders, and some businesses business vendors in this area of Kisii County who are going to give us the opinions depending with the speech that His Excellency gave yesterday, because he gave rampant ideas of what he was giving, or the promises that he was giving, because we saw yesterday he was able to uplift or levy down the prices of fertilizer, and even we saw that he gave a good hand to the Supreme Court. Maybe I get a glimpse of views from these viewers who are here, or this some of the residents from this side.
Kwa majina naitwa Moses Bisera kutoka Kisii Town. Tunafurahia sana kwa sherehe iliyofanyika jana katika uwanja wa Kasarani. Tungependa kumpongeza Rais William Ruto. Sisi kutoka hapo nyuma tulikuwa katika hiyo mlengo mwingine tukipongeza Raila, lakini tumekubali ya kwamba presidenti alipata ushindi wa ukweli. Tungependa kumuuliza kama watu wa bodaboda. Rais alisema ataanza na watu wa chini, ikiwemo mtu wa bodaboda kama sisi, ikiwemo mama mboga na wale wengine wa chini zaidi. Tungependa kumuhimiza ya kwamba sisi hapa tulipo hatuko sawa sana, kwa sababu bei ya mafuta ya bodaboda iko juu, hunga hatupati pesa ya kununua, hata bodaboda yenyewe iko bei kali, wananchi hakuna pesa ya kupanda hiyo bodaboda. Tunaomba Rais vile ametuahidi mbolea itakuja, isikue tena eti ni mbolea ya kuja kung'ang'ania kama vile serikali iliyopita ikatuunganisha na unga ya shilingi 100. Hiyo unga hatukuona kabisa. Tunataka Rais kama ni ahadi zake ni za kweli, atufanyie vile alisema mwenyewe, tupate mbolea. Maanake Wakisii tuko na machani chai, hapo tutasaidika. Maana Wakisii hapa ni watu wa kupenda sana kufanyia nguvu za mikono yao. Sisi raundi hii tumepongeza Saidi Chebukati kwa kufanya uamuzi wa maana hatujaona vurugu yoyote. Hata diagasi ya serikali imebaki kwa store huko, wacha ikae huko. Sisi tumechoka na vurugu. Tunampongeza Raila kwa kukubali kushindwa. Raundi hii tunataka tu amani. Mtu wa bodaboda akiamuka asubuhi ajitafutie, apate riziki yake, apate kutunza familia yake. Mtu wa bodaboda wa pale chini, Rais alituahidi kuna njia atakuja kutusaidia. Tunataka atufafanulie zaidi ni njia gani atakuja kutusaidia. Ikiwemo hapa Kisii County kuna watu ambao wanapeana mapikipiki kwa roni, wanatuhangaisha sana, mafuta hakuna, roni tumeshindwa kulipa, familia inatutoroka. Tunaomba Rais ashughulikie hiyo. Asante sana.
Pengine kama mwendeshaji bodaboda, unajua katika kama kawaida kwa kila siku ya 14 ya mwezi huwa inatarajiwa kwamba bei ya mafuta huenda ikapanda ama ikashuka. Pengine matarajio yako ni yapi, ama utamuomba Rais mteule?
Matarajio yangu kwa huu mwezi tarehe 14 kabla haijafika naiona kwa umbali. Lakini niko na roho ya kwamba Rais hawezi kupenda kutuongezea mafuta, na ile alituahidi. Hiyo tunaongoja kwa hamu na gamu kuamuka siku hiyo tupate mafuta iko chini, na hiyo unga ambaye alituahidi atasungumzia. Hajasungumzia jana juu ya unga, alisungumzia juu ya mbolea. Kitambo atoe mbolea, mahindi ikuwe shambani, tutakuwa tumeumia sana. Angalie jambo la unga, ndio tukiongoja hiyo mahindi tutakuja kutumia hiyo mbolea yenye atatupea kama serikali. Asanteni William Ruto, pongezi, kongoi serikali, kongoi misi.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine tuweze kupata maoni kutoka kwa mkazi mwingine.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Ronald Bosire, ni mkazi wa hapa Kisii. Kwanza nampongeza Rais wa 5 wa nchi ya Kenya, President William Samoei Ruto, na vile alifanya campaign kwa bidii. Tulikuwa tunamsikiliza, tulikuwa tunamfuata, tukamwamini, tukamchagua. Sasa ameingia kwenye hatamu yake ya uongozi, na tuliona jana alipeana speech, akaongelea kuhusu judiciary. Tulifurahia sana, judiciary ikuwe supported. Alafu pia akaongelea kuhusu mbolea. Hiyo mbolea tunaomba tafadhali kila county wa make sure hiyo mbolea imefika na imefikia waliolengwa. Hii maneno yenye Ruto aliongea kuhusu cartels ndio tunataka angalie sana. Juu hiyo mbolea inaweza kuja tena makatels waanze kutunyanyasa kwa sababu ni yetu na ni ya bei ya chini ambayo ni 3,500. Wahakikishe kila Mkenya ameipata kwa hiyo bei, tena wamepata wale wakulima wote. Pia nilikuwa nangojea sana president aongelee kuhusu NHIF vile alisema malipo itashuka. Kama mimi nangojea sana hiyo NHIF ishuke ifike 300 vile alisema, nitaanza kulipa hata leo kama itashuka. Pia akaongelea kuhusu CBC inatutatiza sana na vile uchumi iko ngumu. Tunataka vile amesema ataweka task force next week. Iharakishwe haraka ndio tujue by January, tujue kama CBC tutapelekana nayo vipi, ama serikali itatusaidia aje. Sasa sisi wananchi wa chini, kitu yenye tunangojea sana ni Hustlers Fund, ile yenye president alisema. Already we are in process kutengeneza masakos, na hiyo Hustlers Fund ikikuja ipate tuko tayari kusukuma hii maisha yetu ya hapa chini. Na nikiongelea kuhusu mafuta, bei ya mafuta imetusumbua sana. Watu hawana pesa, hawa wenye wanatumia bodaboda hawana pesa ya kulipa, mafuta iko juu. Sasa unashindwa utafanya aje na unataka pesa. Sasa tunafanyia hata bei ya hasara kwa sababu unataka ukule. Na hasara hiyo ikiendelea, mwisho pikipiki itaharibika na utaisha hivyo tu. So tuangalie mafuta leo ni tarehe 14, kama inawezekana apunguze mafuta ndio tuweze kuchapa kazi. Ni hayo tu.
Naam, asante sana. Thank you very much, as you have been able to get from residents from this area, boda riders and some of the business people, that they are very happy with the speech of the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and they are very happy, and they wish that it will be their wish that he acts upon, because normally cartels have been going through, when the fertilizers arrive, they cut through and they have not been able to get those fertilizers. That's all that I have from this side. Maybe I pass back the mantle to you, Linda, in studio.
Alfayo, thank you of this, but that should be on our subsequent bulletins, and most importantly, every other time that we are holding a morning cafe just to hear what the people have to say. This is the only moment where we also get to keep check of the government, and most importantly, put them to tabs, most importantly, put them to account. And therefore, on this very note, we shift gears from all this talk of politics and for a moment get to hit the kitchen and train you on how you make some of the best of your daily